In this digital clip, we're going to look at the Coaching Diamond, which is a problem-solving and coaching tool. The Coaching Diamond is a flip chart-based group problem-solving process. It consists of 10 easy steps that help the group gather and visualize information on a problem before proceeding to prioritizing possible solutions and planning actions. An objective: what are we here for? Ground rules: how are we going to behave and how we're going to deal with each other during the session? A focus question: how important is it that we get this right? A discussion question: what's getting in the way of us achieving our goal? Problem identification, which is a brainstorming exercise to generate all the stuff that gets in the way. Problem categorization and prioritization helps us take the like problems and group them into possible solutions for later. Then solution identification, which involves going out into the future and looking back and assuming this is all perfect and we've got it right. How did we get here? Reverse verification, which is all about agreeing the right solutions. And then solution prioritization and action plan. So it starts with a fairly nebulous, massive problem to solve and ends up with a fairly distinct and succinct action plan for the teams to focus on. But before we start with our Coaching Diamond exercise, there's a few tools you need to make sure you have at your disposal. You'll need at least 2 flip charts, blue tack for sticking paper on the walls, voting dots or smiley face dots, lots of post-it notes, ideally 2 colours, one colour for headings, the other colour for content, and then finally lots of marker pens. Step 1, objective. The first step in the Coaching Diamond is for the coach to sit down with the sponsor, the manager, the project manager, the director, and agree what the key objective of the session is. It's probably important that this is done before everybody arrives, so there isn't a bun fight about what they're there to discuss. Step 2 is all about ground rules, and the key with coaching any ground rules is getting the team to agree that they're the rules they're going to follow. This helps the coach use the team and peer influence to police themselves to stay on track. So asking the team what's important about how we behave, listening to everybody's opinion, turning phones off, one person talking at a time. There's no such thing as a bad idea. Let's be hard on the problem rather on the person. It's the important stuff to use in ground rules. It allows the coach to write them up on the board, and if at any point during the session anybody goes off track, you just remind them of the ground rules. Step 3, focus question. The focus question is about creating yes sets and buy-in from across the whole team. You'll often find 1 or 2 members of the team don't believe the objective is an important one. So what the focus question does is get everybody on the same page, and by drawing a large thermometer on a whiteboard, giving everybody dots, ask them to come out and place their dots on whether this particular issue is really important to them or not important at all. And just through peer influence alone, you will get 99% of the time every dot right at the top. This helps us get everybody focused in the same direction and as a team trying to achieve a consistent objective. The focus question, discussion question, and objective are all inextricably linked. And it's important to agree your mission and objective first, so that may be achieving zero harm by 2025. Your discussion question might be, what stops us achieving zero harm? Therefore, your focus question would be, how important is it that we achieve zero harm by 2025? That creates the buy-in and allows people to understand why they're spending time discussing the issues to achieve the objective. Step 4. The discussion question. The discussion question is often best if asked in a negative phrase. So what stops us achieving zero harm is a great way of generating a lot of the real life stuff that people think stops them achieving their goal. What you tend to find as well is it's slightly cathartic if there's someone in the room that has a belief or a blocker that this mission or objective is impossible, because their thinking will be stifled by that blocker or belief. By asking a negatively phrased question first, you get all that stuff out of the way, you unglue the thinking process, and people can think clearly outside the box. If you choose to use a positively phrased discussion question, you can skip from this step straight through to step 7, solution identification. Step 5, problem identification. Having asked the discussion question, what stops us achieving zero harm? Problem identification is a brainstorming exercise which elicits all of the reasons and things that are stopping us achieving it. Take a pack of post-it notes, all the same colour, and pass them around the group. And then you ask them to write down in the simplest possible terms one problem or blocker per post-it note. And from there, get them up on their feet and sticking their post-it notes on the board. The next step is to put like post-it notes together. We do this by creating columns of similar problems. And it's a simple exercise where one of the team walks up to the board, peels a post-it note off, shouts it out, and puts it in the first column. He then takes the next one, shouts the name out, and agrees, is this the same column or a new column? If there's a debate, you always let the person describe what they were talking about and decide whether it's the same column or a new and improved column. You carry this on until you've created lists of similar problems. Step 6, problem categories and priorities. So now having vertical columns on the board with no heading, we need to call these columns categories. Take a different colour post-it note and get the team to agree a common name for all of the problems listed underneath. And don't worry if at any point one name doesn't cover them all, you can always break it out and create a second column and break the problem category into a number of key areas. The next challenge is to decide which one of these categories or which number of categories are we going to work on and do some solution identification. And the easiest way to do this is to issue each of the team 3 voting dots to vote for which subject or category they want to work on. And at the end of the exercise, you count all the dots until you find out which one is the highest priority or the most voted for, and issue that back out to the teams. At this point, it's probably a great idea to break the group down into 2 teams and give each team 2 or 3 categories to work on. Step 7, solution identification. Ask the teams to come up with some solutions for each of the problem sets and categories they've created. Now, the challenge is here, sometimes beliefs and values about what is and isn't possible will get in the way. To get them into the right frame of mind, let's pretend it's 2025 and we've been achieving zero harm or excellence for 5 years consecutively. How did we get here? What did we do with those problems? What solutions did we put in place that allowed us to get to 2025 having achieved excellence? What you're doing with that state of mind shift is getting them to pretend they're somewhere completely different where the rules that normally apply don't apply, so they can think outside the box. So as the teams are generating the solutions to their problems, they should be working from the left to the right. We started out on the right-hand side of the board with the why do we want the change? 2025 achieving excellence. The what have we got to change is on the left-hand side. That's the negative stuff that they've grouped into categories and now needs to be solved. How do we solve that is the stuff in the middle. So you've got a what, how, why board. Step 8, reverse verification to make good on somebody else's solution. Having got the 2 groups working on each set of categories, the next step is to get group and peer agreement. Get each team to verify the other team's boards. A simple tool you can use is voting dots, a happy face for I like this, an unhappy face for I don't like this, and a frowning face for I don't understand. Or you can draw hearts, lightning bolts, and question marks. So get each team to look at the other team's board and then simply get them to present them back to the other team, asking them questions about how they see it working, what they didn't understand, and what they really liked. Having done the reverse verification and agreed which of the solutions are the favourites, you may find you've got too many favourites to work on. So the next step is to prioritise the solutions. Step 9, solution prioritisation. Just like before, give the teams voting dots and ask them to vote on their favourite solution. Once the team have identified their favourite solution, you may want to map the solution out by doing a bow tie analysis on it and look at the blockers and the drivers to make sure you've not missed any major things that are going to stop this solution working. And this is as simple as taking the solution, banging it on the board, and then as a team coming up with what are all the drivers to make this work and what are all the blockers that might stop this working, and coming up with some mitigation steps to stop the blockers and some amplification steps to increase the drivers. Step 10, the action plan. The final step, having come up with a whole pile of solutions which have been agreed and prioritized by the team, is to make sure that they're in a logical and methodical order, because some will be the enablers for other parts of the plan. So taking that action plan and making it action centered by making it owned by an individual person, giving it a time date by when it's supposed to be done, and making sure everyone in the room understands the logic by which each task is linked to another person's task.